Thanks, Lisa. I'm joined today by Guilhem Chaumont from Flowdesk. Hey, Guilhem, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great. It's great to have you back. So we're going to take a little dive into the option markets today. Am I right?
Yes, completely.
Brilliant. Let's kick off with open interest around BTC. What's been happening in the markets this week?
Yes, so it's really a key metrics to track what's happening on the derivative sides, and basically we've got a lot of excitement in the past months because open interest on options completely skyrocketed, notably on CME, which is a key for institutional investors.
Mm-hmm.
And we were definitely interested, to track that in the summer. And what we can say is that these volumes have been relatively steady, but the momentum is not getting as traction as much as we could expect. We are more or less in the 1.8 billion USD area of open interest, which corresponds to 1% of the total market cap for Bitcoin. So that's pretty good. But compared to what we had in the past months, we could have expected more. And on the CME side, the volumes completely exploded by a factor of 10 during May. And we could expect similarly, these volumes to keep on going. And unfortunately, they are losing a bit of space. And right now, CME is only a few percent of derivatives market share in options.
What do you think is impacting that? What are the indicators that you're looking at that are giving you some insight into why?
It's a bit hard to tell. I mean, in my opinion, we've seen, especially during the summer, and that could be completely caused by the summer, a lack of interest from institutionals in Bitcoins. I mean, at least not as much as we could have wanted to, as we could have expected, especially since in May and June it was quite active. So I think overall the derivatives and particularly the options market is just impacted in a similar manner. Mm-hmm. But I'm relatively confident for the remaining part of the year.
Okay. So let's talk about implied volatility. So I know you sent me a chart looking at BTC ATM. What are we looking at here?
So I think this one is very, very interesting because what we can see, particularly after the 31st of August, is that the implied volatility on the options has started, to significantly increase. Yeah. But the price itself, was still in the 12K area without, significant moves. So that definitely tells that there has been some anticipation of what has happened during the last 72 hours, the move from 12K to 10K. A bit unsure and hard to explain why, but clearly some people wanted to bet on the volatility, and they did that right before the crash.
Okay. And then, our next chart's looking at IV versus RV. Mm-hmm. So the, implied versus the realized. What are we looking at here?
So here it's a bit of the same picture. What we can see is that the implied volatility has increased a lot prior to the crash at the end of August, while the realized volatility was extremely steady. So the spread between the two is clearly an indicator of what people are betting in the markets. And we can see that definitely there were some people betting on whether this is an upside or a downside right before the crash.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so total ETH options open interest. ETH has had an interesting few weeks, and looking at this chart, it's reflective of a lot of increased interest.
Yeah. So I mean, we've not talked a lot about Ethereum options because that market was not that significant. Sure. But obviously, because of DeFi, there has been a growing interest for Ethereum in general, and so that's really why today I wanted to say a few words, because basically what we are seeing since 2 months is a similar pattern as what we have seen in the Bitcoin options market back in May. Huge growing numbers, and if you look at the figures right now, we are more or less around 1%. Of the total market cap for Ethereum. So, I mean, what we can say is that now the options market on the Ethereum side is definitely comparable in terms of volume to the Bitcoin market. Yeah. So I think that's very positive, because as there is also growing interest because of DeFi for Ethereum, we need hedging products, we need speculative products, and options are definitely one of them. And the increase in volumes and liquidity is going to help us do our business, basically.
Indeed. So let's compare BTC to ETH, looking at the implied volatility on our next chart here.
Yeah, so for this final chart, just wanted to say, very quick words on the fact that obviously the Ethereum implied volatility curve is much higher than the BTC one. That's caused obviously by the volatility itself, but of course because of the strong retracement we have had in the Ethereum in the past days, caused by the exit of liquidity from Uniswap notably. So I think here there is not so many surprise. Just looking at the regular option curves with deep out of the money puts being extremely and highly priced. That's the price, of course, for the risk and for the hedging. But that's something that we are really closely monitor. Because it will tell us a lot about what can happen in the next weeks and whether or not the uptrend will continue. So yeah, some interesting metrics to track.
Interesting. So I'll put you on the spot. What do you predict in the next week or two? Where are these markets trending? Or do we not know? I mean, obviously the DeFi thing just came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, the DeFi thing came out of nowhere, but clearly, what I'm going to look at is the Ethereum market, because I think Ethereum market is going to be a driver for whole markets much more than it used to be, and that's really what we see right now with Bitcoin. Not much retracing, but Ethereum having up to 40% dump. And I'm going to look at the fundamentals. And actually, I was really surprised to see that if you look at the locked value in DeFi, it has gone up almost to the highest levels. The amount that we have in Uniswap, I think it's close to 8 billion in total now. So I think the fundamentals are relatively good on this side. So on my end, I'm expecting to stay in these levels for a few weeks, reintegration of the $400 level for Ethereum. But at this point, we will see, because anything can happen. We will see whether or not we have interesting new projects coming in DeFi, because we need them to fuel this market, obviously. Right now, we have not seen so many, to be honest. So yeah, I'm really curious about the fundamentals and which new projects are going to come in the game.
Yeah, it's so funny to hear you say that, Guilhem, when I was speaking to somebody earlier in the week, and we were going over, what had happened in the past week in, the ETH and DeFi space, and the positions that some people had taken. And my husband is an ex-trader, and he looked at me and he said, does nobody look at the fundamentals? And I was like, well, in crypto, I don't know. Do we have fundamentals? But it's funny. You just use the term. So somebody is.
Yeah, we will have to look at the fundamentals at some point.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us again today. We'll have you back in a couple weeks and take a look back and see what happened.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.